Hey authors, welcome to Author Nation. This is our first live video. We will be having many more, not to worry about it. And today I want to introduce to you someone who has just launched a book, Your Writing Matters. So in her new release, Your Writing Matters, Colleen M's story helps writers determine whether writing is part of their life's purpose. Her book on author platforms, Writer Get Noticed, was a gold medal winner in the Reader's Favorite Book Awards, and Overwhelmed Writer Rescue, I think I need to read that one, was named Book by Book, Publicity's Best Writing Publishing Book in 2018. Her novel, she also writes fiction, Lorena's Gift, was a Forward Reviews Indies Book of the Year Awards winner, among others. So Colleen, when she's not writing, she serves as a workshop leader, a motivational speaker, and she helps attendees remove mental and emotional blocks and tap into their unique creative powers. And here she is, Colleen M's story. Hi, hey, Colleen, everybody. How are you today?
Melody, it's so great to see you.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'm like honored that this is your first live show. I didn't know that.
I know, this is my very first live interview show, and I'm like so excited. I'm excited to do many more, but I'm thrilled that you are the first. You are just launching a brand new book, and so this is really exciting. So tell me, why did you write this book? Because you've written books for authors before, so why this book? Why now?
This one was special, and of course all of your books are special, but this one was a little different for me because it was more heartfelt. Overwhelmed Writer Rescue was all about productivity, time management, trying to fit writing into your life. Writer Get Noticed is about trying to find your own niche so that you can market your books without feeling sleazy. But this one came about because of my own experiences and my conversations with other writers who have been doing it for a while and were starting to feel discouraged. They would talk to me at conferences, and sometimes I'd get emails from them saying, I've been writing, I've been working hard, I've published, I'm working my platform, and it's just not taking hold like I hoped it would. And I'm starting to think, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Should I maybe quit writing? And I would hear these stories, and I would really feel kind of heartbroken because these people were dedicated to writing. They loved writing. And to imagine that they felt they had to maybe give it up because they weren't seeing these outside rewards made me feel sad inside. And at the same time, I had gone through years of the same sort of experience, working really hard at writing, at the same time, not really sure I was cut out for it, not really sure that I had the talent, that this is what I should be doing. There was no reason really for me to think that I should be a writer. I had no background. I had no family that were writers. I had no official writing education. So I had gone through that too, that constant indecision, working hard, then something would happen like a rejection or maybe a poor review, something doesn't go well, and you think, okay, well, maybe this isn't my thing. And so that kind of, I'm working hard at it, but I'm not really sure this is what I should be doing. It's a form of indecision, and scientists have found that indecision is painful. It's psychologically painful. It's not a good place to be. It robs you of your motivation, of your confidence. And as long as you're in that place, it's hard for you to go full out on your writing career. So it's kind of like you're stepping on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. So I got through that experience myself after many years and found some ways to do that, and wanted to help other writers that were talking to me about this issue to get there faster than I did. Because it took me, at least a decade, a little more, to finally reach that place where I felt this inner sense of peace. Okay, I'm a writer and I know that I am. So regardless of what else happens, writing is going to have an important place in my life. And I'm not going to keep thinking that maybe it doesn't, or I should do something else or whatever. The indecision is gone. And I want to help other writers get to that same place.
Yeah. So this is for writers with commitment issues.
Precisely. I mean, I talk about
Right?
that in the book. It's like I was a writer with one foot out the door,
Exactly.
It's so true. Yeah. What a great way to put it.
Yeah, so it's time to put the ring on on that writing relationship, right?
Exactly. Precisely.
That's great. And that means, as you say in the book, making a decision. And that, to me, that's just, and so that sounds scary. I mean, I'm a writer. I've been writing all my life. I have a degree in writing, and still it takes a long time for me to really own that. And then for you to say, Melody, make a decision. It's like, oh, what? So can you talk about this? Like, what do you mean by make a decision, and why is that so important?
It's important because once you do, everything kind of opens up for you. You get that inner sense of peace that you know that you're doing what you should be doing. And that's huge, because then that propels you to go out there and do everything you can to succeed. It kind of gives you a burst of energy and confidence to go after your goals. Making the decision, though, is not easy. I mean, I take the writer through in the book of several quizzes, several exercises to do reflection. It's not, sometimes we will hear people say that you need to say out loud, I'm a writer. And
Yes.
That's always a great thing to do. But if you haven't yet made the decision, that's going to be kind of a hollow victory. I mean, it may make you feel better for 10 minutes, but then your old doubts are going to creep back in and say, yeah, sure you are, And so it's more than just an affirmation. It's more than just writing it down. It's going through a process to say, is writing giving me in my life more than what I'm giving to it? Is it giving back to me as much as I'm putting into it? Is it worthwhile? Is it helping me create meaning in my life? Is this something that matters regardless of whether my books sell or I get good reviews or not? We have to come to a point where we make that decision internally so that we can weather everything that happens externally, all the ups and downs that we go through. Otherwise, every time that there's a downtime, we think we should quit, or we think maybe we should give it up. To get past that, we have to have that inner conviction or that commitment, like you said. And so we have to go through this process and make this decision. Am I a writer or aren't I? Regardless of what else happens outside. And then once you make that decision, the writing life just gets a lot better.
Yes, I like that. Your writing life. And interesting, just as you're saying that, I think it was Colleen, and it says Facebook user, but I think it's Colleen. She says, being in that space of indecision depletes your energy, and that absolutely affects your motivation, right? And that's what you're saying, that when when you have that one foot in the door, one foot out the door, you just can't find that motivation, that the energy and the motivation. And that's, that's when things don't happen, right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, or they happen halfway, I mean,
yes.
We make like a half-hearted effort, or we try some things, but then they don't work, so we pull back. I did this for years in submissions for my novels. Right. You submit to 5 publishers, you get 5 rejections, so you think, okay, well, it must not be good enough, and maybe I'm not really cut out for this. And then here goes this long period of time that you're not submitting, and you're not pushing your work out there. It just robs you of that time that you could be actually building your career.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, and I think part of the issue is there's this whole, you're not a writer unless you're making money, right? You're not an author, and the author's job is to make money. Like there's nothing else worthwhile to live for, right? And so can you talk a little bit about that? There's got to be something more to authorship money's nice, don't get me wrong, but there's got to be more to it. Can you speak to that?
We chuckle, but this is really hard for writers. And I have, I dedicate a full chapter in the book to this. And our culture is what makes this so hard. I'm kind of a firm believer in this, and the more research I do, the more I think this. One of the surveys I quote in the book talked about how most Americans, when surveyed, value money over friendship or religion. I mean, money has become really, really important to us. And, it makes sense in a way. The more money you have, the easier your life might be. But so we kind of put this on our writing. We want our writing to do all these things for us. We want our writing to help us quit our day jobs, give us lots of money. So all we have to do is indulge our creativity, and life will be great. And when writing doesn't do that, then we think that we maybe shouldn't be writers. This whole money thing, I just was on Twitter the other day, and a writer was really discouraged because her book sales weren't going very well. And I understand that completely. I mean, we all go through that. We put these things out, we work really hard on them, we push our platform, and not a lot happens. And it causes a lot of questions, should I be doing this or should I not be doing this? So money is a huge thing. And that's why I think we have to go through this process to say, what is writing giving me? What do I want out of my writing? And what can I control? Because at the end of the day, you can do everything right and still not sell a lot of books. I have studies in the book about Booker Prize award winners who sold very few copies of their books.
Yeah.
And, we think, oh, well, certainly these people sold hundreds of thousands of copies, millions of copies. That's not the case. I was just listening to the gentleman who wrote The Secret the other day on a podcast, and he was saying, it is hard to sell books. I mean, here's this guy who sold millions of books all over the world saying, I'm noticing that it's getting a lot harder to sell books. So we need to keep this in perspective. The competition out there is crazy. The market is saturated. 1 million books just self-published in 2018, according to Bowker, and only climbing, and that's only the self-published ones. So we have to keep this in perspective. It's tough out there, and we are competing with really good writers. I mean, if you're reading any of the new stuff coming out, you can see there are really good writers out there. So the best we can do is to continue to try to improve and to decide what writing has to give us outside of money.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. In fact, we have a comment about that. Essetino Artist said, at the end of the day, we've got to follow our passion and the money will come.
I might have a quarrel with that.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask. That's exactly what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you about
commenter, but I talk about that in the book. There's this myth out in the culture. Do what you love and the money will come. Do what you love and you'll be rich. And there's even a study that I quote that was kind of pushed out as one that proved that. But if you dig a little deeper, you realize, well, not exactly. It's not necessarily making an occupation out of what you love that brings you money. It's having purpose in your life. When you have purpose, if writing is part of your purpose, gives you a reason to get up in the morning, then you tend to have a different mindset about how you're going about life. You're going to set goals. You're going to feel directed in what you need to do. You're going to go after those goals. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you go after writing, eventually writing is going to bring you all this money. That is actually a myth. It may not, depending on a lot of factors. If you decide that writing matters to you regardless of that, you will be a happier, more contented writer than if you think that somewhere down the road is supposed to be bringing you money, and then if it doesn't, you end up going through this whole indecision thing again. Purpose in life helps you create a mindset that will make you more successful. Studies have found that people who have purpose are eventually more financially successful, but not necessarily because they made an occupation out of their purpose.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But okay, so devil's advocate here, Colleen, I can't do work that isn't meaningful to me. I've tried, trust me, and trying to find my place in the world, right? Getting that job that I was supposed to have and to make the money I need. I mean, I need a certain level of money just to, pay my bills, right? But I found that I can't just maintain something if I can't find meaning in it and purpose in it. So I need to find a balance between my need for purpose and my need for money.
And that makes total sense. I do the same thing. Don't misunderstand that I'm saying you only have one purpose in life.
Right.
I think most of us have many more than one. I am a health writer. I'm a freelance health writer and have been for over 20 years. That's my profession. That's where I earn the bulk of my money. And so I find purpose in that as well. I mean, I'm helping people to live healthier lives. So then it kind of takes the pressure off my creative writing, my writing that I do for writers, that fulfills a greater purpose inside me, but it doesn't mean that my health writing isn't part of my purpose as well. I think, we can get tunnel vision and think, well, there's only one purpose, one way. I got to, make my occupation out of this. I think we put too much pressure sometimes on our writing by doing that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we have got to, totally agree with having a purpose. Like that's an important thing to have a purpose. So let's just work on this kind of purpose and money a little bit more, thinking about building an audience. So I write a book, and yeah, I'd like it to make money. That would be great. But I'm also trying to, I have a meaning. I want meaning. I have a purpose. I want to like change the world in some way. Right. And so how do I build an audience to, like, it's so hard to build an audience, Colleen, right? And yes, I want to make money, but I also want to fulfill this purpose, and that's part of the reason why I want to sell books. So how do I do that?
I think there are a lot of different ways to do that. My solution to that, and I talk about that in Write or Get Noticed. I'm not a marketer by nature by any means, and I think most writers would agree with that. And so I had to find a way to build a platform that felt good to me, that felt rewarding to me. And for me, it was finding a niche. And I take writers through a process of how to do that in Write or Get Noticed. It was a process that I went through, and then I've refined it. I started out when my first novel came out. I heard what every other writer hears. This was back, several years ago. You need to have a blog. You need to get your platform going. You need to get on social media. I didn't know what I was doing. I did all that stuff. My blog wasn't real successful. It was something I was interested in, but it wasn't quite right. And so when I got my second novel contract, I thought, I got to step it up. I got to find a way to build a platform that will bring people my way. The first thing I would tell writers is keep service in mind. This isn't about you. This is about how you can help your reader, how you can make that reader's day better in some way. And there are many ways to do that. But keeping a service mindset in mind, how can you connect your interests and passions with what people out there need, what they want, what they're looking for? For me personally, that's where my website, Writing and Wellness, came from. I've been a freelance writer, health writer for over 20 years. I study health studies every day. I'm writing about these topics all the time, and I'm really interested in creativity. And so combining those together, voila, I found my niche. And all of a sudden, I'm loving what I'm doing. I have no end of blog ideas and video ideas to go with that. And people are benefiting. So people are coming. So that's a very basic level. You have to find a niche that works for you and that brings people to you because you're offering them something that can help them, regardless of what your writing is. Let me give you another example. I just got my third novel contract a few months ago. Super excited about it. Thank you. And I was like, I got to step it up again, because Writing and Wellness is really for writers. And so it works great for all my nonfiction book, but I need something different for my fiction. What could I do? Well, I talk in my fiction about some supernatural elements. So I have a brand new website I'm going to be announcing here pretty quick called Life and Everything After. It's going to talk about all these things, ghostly encounters, things we can't explain, intuition, and I've got some guest authors coming on. I'm really excited about it. So I'm hoping that way with these topics, I'm going to attract people to this site that are going to be interested in the things that I write about in my fiction. And so that'll help me build an audience there in the same way that I built an audience with Writing and Wellness. Finding that niche is key. And I would encourage writers to not only look at what you write, but your own strengths as well as a person. Are you entertaining? Are you funny? Are you informative? Are you kind of quirky? You can bring these things into your niche and find one. And in Write or Get Noticed, I help you find a tagline, an author mission statement, so that you can then really focus in on that and start to build your audience that way. The cool thing about doing it that way is it's fun, and then you don't feel like you're pushing, buy my book all the time.
Yes, exactly. And that brings me to a question from somebody on YouTube. Marilyn has asked.
Marilyn, hi, Marilyn.
Yeah. One of the things I'm facing now is writing book 2 in a series. The first one was so well received. I find it intimidating to think about how book 2 will be received. Any tips? It will be compared.
Oh, yeah. This is like the sequel to the movie, right?
Right.
It's always really scary. And what do they call it? The sophomore novel syndrome, especially when the first one goes really well, it's always scary to do the second one.
Yes.
For me, I think you just have to, and I'm sure Marilyn knows this, stay true to the characters and the story. That's all you can do. I mean, we can't control how the audience is going to respond, right? And that's one of the things I'm talking about in Your Writing Matters. You have to have that inner commitment because you can't control this outside stuff. So you have to stay true to your creative self, to the source of the story, what the characters are going to do and need to do for the story to work. and, just put it out there and let the chips fall where they may. I feel for you, Marilyn. I understand that feeling. I'm going to be doing that soon, even though this next one is my third novel. It is kind of a second in the same kind of realm. So I will be feeling some of the same stuff. But, we just have to stay true to the story and then hope that the readers like it.
Yeah, no, excellent answer. And it's tough, right? And attached to that, I'd like to talk a little bit about, writing talent versus writing skill, because I think that falls into it. Like Marilyn, I wrote this book, it did really well. Was that a one-off fluke, or am I a skilled writer, right? Do I really have the talent to write? Can you talk a little bit about skill versus talent and how you feel about, the two of them?
Yeah, that's that imposter syndrome you were talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was just luck. Yeah. I talk about this in the book too, because this is one thing that I heard over and over from writers. I don't know if I'm talented enough. And I question this myself for years too. We think there's this myth that only the most talented writers really succeed. They're the ones that succeed the most. Again, I would point out the Bowker book prize winners that weren't selling a lot of copies. And then you have, genre writers that are selling zillions. Which is more talented, that's a subjective point of view, but the most talented don't always succeed. And Angela Duckworth did some great research. I'm sure if any of you have read her research, you know what I'm talking about. She found out that it wasn't talent that was the number one predictor of success. It was grit, which is perseverance and discipline. And she found in her studies, which she studied a lot of subjects, and she found that it was those who had grit who ended up succeeding. So we need to focus less on talent. I tell people there's no one out there qualified to tell you if you're a talented writer or not. There may be people who try. I hear a lot of writers say, well, so-and-so told me this book was no good, or I had a teacher that said such and such. I think a lot of us have those experiences that make us doubt our own abilities. There's no one out there that can tell you if you're talented enough. I took a workshop with the New York Times best-selling author. She pretty much, pushed my story aside, made me feel like it wasn't worthwhile. Fortunately, I had sent it to a publisher before the workshop. The publisher asked for the full when I got back and ended up publishing the book. So you just can't, it's so subjective. You can't let somebody else have that power over you. What you can do is improve your skill as a writer. So no one can tell you if you're talented enough, but you can have editors, mentors that can help you improve. And I highly recommend people find these folks. Go to send your work out to contests that provide critiques and compare those critiques. I highly recommend hiring an editor. I did that early on in my fiction writing career. One of the best things I ever did. Yes, it takes money, but you're investing in your education as a writer. None of us would expect to become concert pianists without lessons and practice. Yet a lot of us expect to become best-selling authors without the same sort of education and commitment. I don't quite know why that is. I think maybe people just assume everybody knows how to write for some reason. I'm not sure why. There's a difference between writing and storytelling. So storytelling is a whole new skill, and it's a lot like, learning to play an instrument. It requires mentorship, practice, learning the basics and the rules of the game. And so all that takes time and investment in yourself. And if you know inside you're a writer, highly encourage you to do that as often as you can. We feel like maybe we shouldn't, it's self-indulgent, but no, I firmly believe writing is not there only for you to write, but for your own self-development, for your own evolution as a person. The more I write, the better person I feel that I become. And I think that's true for most writers. So I would highly suggest investing in improving your skills and forget about talent. I have a lot of writers come up to me and say, well, I don't know if I'm talented enough. I'd rather they come to me and say, how can I improve my skills? Because you can do that.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And I think part of the issue is that we go to school and we do so many years and we do English and we read books and we write essays. And I think that people think, well, I went to school, I should be able to write. Well, they forget that one, that was just a partial education, right? You didn't learn everything about math or history or English or anything in school. And two, there's so many different types of writing. There's web writing, there's business writing, there's academic writing, there's fiction, there's nonfiction. Each genre has their own tropes. And so those are the skills, you can build. And so we have this, well, I learned to write. What's my problem? It's no, you learned a fraction of what's
You learned
possible out
English.
there.
You learned
You
the
learned
language.
English. You learned a fraction of what's possible. And that kind of brings me to this question of flow. There are some authors who like, oh yeah, I sit down and I just like in an hour spill out 3,000 words, and it's all so easy for me, and it's channeled from I don't know where. And then you have other authors who are like, yeah, it's like I got 500 words out this week, And so, right? I mean, and I think we've probably all been in that both places. So I'd like to talk about that. And I think there's something linked to what you said in your book about, convergent and divergent thinking. And so can you just speak to this idea that we're always supposed to be in flow and we're never supposed to struggle, or,
Let's see. I'm trying to think which one of those to tackle first. Let me talk first about.
Yeah, sorry, I asked you two questions.
Convergent versus divergent thinking. This is another thing I did some research on. I believe the researcher's name was Land, but I don't quote me on that. But he did some testing on this, and they actually scanned people's brains and found that there's two different types of thinking: convergent and divergent. One is involved in creating, imagination. The other is involved in judgment. And we need both when we're writing or doing any sort of art. The problem is when we try to do both at the same time. And he found out that when this happens, the brain kind of fights itself. It's like having, like I said a minute ago, the accelerator and the brake on at the same time. And this happens all the time in corporate meetings, if anybody's been in corporations. They want you to brainstorm new ideas, right? So you get together and try to brainstorm new ideas. And that's the first part of the thinking, which is about imagination and creativity. The problem is that everybody immediately jumps in with the second part of thinking, which is the judgment. So we come up with an idea. Well, we can't do that. It's too expensive. Oh, we come up with another idea. No, that's crazy. That's not going to work. When we're writing, the example is that we're writing and then we say, oh, that wasn't very good. Or we're writing and say, oh, that's not going to work because of A, B, C, D. When we have that judgment in our heads at the same time that we're trying to create, we're going to start and stop. And it's a really good way to end up with writer's block, because you're asking your brain to do something it's just not very good at doing.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is, and everybody knows this, you have to get rid of the judge. While you're drafting, you have to get rid of the judge. You have to separate these two. If you're someone who can write and edit at the same time, more power to you. But most of us, if we end up trying to do that, then we slow down, like you say. We struggle to get 500 words out. We don't get in the flow. The flow is the creative, imaginary side of the brain. So we just have to do whatever works for you. If that's channeling, which personally, that's kind of what I do. For me, I listen. I tend to sit back and just listen and let the story come. And that helps me get into that creative mindset and not worry about the editing. I think another thing that helps me is that I'm a musician. And I play French horn in the symphony. And if you're a musician and you've got a solo in a piece, you got one shot to do that. If you don't do it at the moment, that's it. You fail. The awesome thing about writing that I love about it is you can go back and fix it. You can go back and change it as much as you want. You can make it right before anybody sees it. So as long as you remember that and remind yourself of that, that gives you the freedom to just create when you're creating. And then when you're ready to go back and edit for the draft, you can do that and bring that side of the brain in. Did that cover both of those, the flow and the thinking? Okay.
That was fabulous. And Marilyn said, that's me, the struggling author. So I think you've just helped Marilyn answer a question, which is great. And we have someone new, Puppet X13, and he says, I'm really digging this podcast and subject. I'm hooked. I just wanted Colleen to know that you're loving it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that brings us to a good point, and hopefully Puppet 13 loves this, the benefits of writing.
Does that mean, I wonder if they have a puppy? I would love to see.
I don't know. I'm really curious. Puppet 13. Do you have 13
puppies right now?
Yes, if you have 13 puppies, please let us know.
I used to have a black German Shepherd and I lost her, and I'm dogless right now. So it's horrible. Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay, sorry. So what was your question?
No, that's great. That's great. So while Puppet 13 is digging it, I'm wondering if might enjoy learning about the benefits of writing, because that's a piece of your book. When I was reading your book, we put aside the money and we put aside building the audience and we just talk about us for a moment. Like, writing benefits me, the writer. And I think that just that alone is important, aside from everything else. So you can tell us some of the benefits that you've mentioned in your book?
Thank you. And I think this is kind of the saving grace for us writers. We're going to go through this emotional roller coaster. It's just going to happen because that's the business we're in. Yeah. Some days are going to be good. Some days are going to be bad as far as, building the platform, marketing your books. That's all good stuff. I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on that and do our best there, but we have to have a way to survive all of that, to be able to keep our creative spirits protected and be able to continue forward with our best work. So the benefits of writing that I talk about, and there are many. I talk about 6 in the book. I'm sure there are more that people have, but it's bringing your focus back in on your personal, what I was talking about, your personal evolution. Why am I a writer? Why am I doing this? I mean, when we really step back and think about that, it's not so much because I want to be famous or I want to make a lot of money. Something has drawn me to this. There's a reason. A lot of people will say they feel called to write, or this is some sort of a soul message for them. I felt that way. And so why is that? What benefits are we getting? And how is this part of our own evolution? And I think we don't think about that often enough. And in the end, I think it's the most important thing. When you're on your deathbed at 90, what did you accomplish in life? Are you going to care more about how many copies you sold? Or are you going to care about, man, that last novel I wrote, I felt so good about that. That was like the peak of my creative achievement. I really got where I wanted to go with that. So the benefits of writing, I talk in the book several, if I can remember them all, how it can be healing. It can offer us a form of escape. It can help us answer the big questions we have, like what happens after people die, or why does God let, bad things happen? It can help us talk about things we can't talk about otherwise. A lot of writers will turn to writing to get over an old trauma. It boosts our brain power. Studies show that. The more you write, the smarter you tend to get. And there's actually research showing that. So, that's a really good excuse to keep writing. And also the last one that I have in the book that I think was really impactful for me was that it helps you to get to know yourself better. It helps you to really figure out what your values are in life and what matters to you, and to become an even better person. It helps you grow. And when we talk about what matters in life, I think that, at least personally, it is a lot more important than, how our books may end up doing on the market. I look back, on my first novel and then on this new one that's coming out, and I can see the growth, and I know other writers feel the same. You see this growth, and it's not just on the page. It's internally as well. So what does writing do for you? I mean, if I were to think about letting go of writing, it's kind of scary at this point, because it has a lot to do with who I am as a person now and where I hope to go. I mean, there's kind of no end to this. So I take people in the book through the process of finding out what benefits writing has for them, for the purpose of saying, if writing is giving back to you all these things, then certainly you want to keep doing it. You would make the decision to be a writer no matter what may happen on the market for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember reading that part, and the part where you talked about, writing as a form of escape. And I thought, well, yes, how many
of us, form of escape.
How many
as opposed to drinking or whatever.
Right. Yes, as opposed to other less healthy forms of escape.
Right.
But also, how many of us read to escape? How many of us read other people's stories to escape? So what a wonderful way to escape is to create a story, right? Just create your own life, make it beautiful,
right.
Create another life. And, what a wonderful way to escape is to just use your imagination in written form. I just wanted to point that out because it was one of the things that reading, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Yes.
Well, and I think the cool thing about that is that so many forms of escape are not good for us.
Yes.
If we spend too much time playing video games, or we eat too much unhealthy food, or we smoke, or we drink, or whatever, all these things that we tend to do to escape. Yeah. And we all need those coping techniques. Writing is one of the healthiest and best we can do. So
Yes.
it's not only that if you're trying to justify this time and energy and money that you're investing in writing, that's one of the great things. You are bettering yourself with your coping technique. I don't think, you can say that about anything else that I can think of, unless maybe you're painting or, doing some other sort of art that helps, de-stress, helps you escape, helps you create a world where things are like you think they should be. And at the same time is making you smarter, is helping you heal from past traumas, is helping you, get to know yourself. There's so many benefits. Yeah.
Exactly. So that brings us, in a section of a book, you say, imagine your life without writing. And so after, telling us all these amazing benefits, imagining your life without writing, it's, I couldn't.
Well, there's benefits, right? I mean, I think sometimes when we are feeling unsure and we're in that place of indecision, and we're going, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I think it's important to indulge that. I think sometimes we shy away from it because we're a little scared. Maybe I shouldn't consider this. I say consider it. Consider quitting writing. Because I want you to make the decision to commit to writing, no matter what. So to be able to do that, we have to see the other side of it.
Yeah.
What would life be like without writing? Well, number one, I'd have a lot more time, right? I could go do a lot of other things because writing and all this stuff involved with it takes a lot of time. I wouldn't feel the pressure, for my stuff to be really good. I wouldn't worry if somebody liked my writing or didn't like my writing. I mean, there's lots of benefits. If you think about, if I just let this go, there's certainly good sides.
Yeah.
But then of course, you have to consider what would be the downsides of that. And then weigh the two. And your answer to that question will determine whether you have what I call a writer's DNA. Is this your gig or isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And so what are some reasons when writing might not be for me?
Well, if you're looking for things, for it to bring you things that are outside your control, you're going to be unhappy. If you're looking for your writing to get you out of your day job, what's the latest survey I read? Less than 1% of authors make more than $100,000 a year with their writing. Most, surveys will show around 6,000 or 7,000 a year, maybe. Writers are always doing something else to fill in the blanks. Not that you can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people that can do it, but it's rare. So if you're someone who's looking for writing to bring you outside things, external rewards, like money, like fame, like feeling maybe that you're a better person or something like that. Writing can heal, but if we're hoping to, put out a book and have everybody think that we're great after that or something, we're going to be really disappointed because, a lot of times the book doesn't get the attention we want. Even our families aren't reading the books.
Yeah.
Some, I've heard a lot of writers say, my mom's not even reading the book. I'm very lucky. My mom reads my books, but, I hear a lot of writers say that. What we need to be sure that we have this writer's DNA before we do this thing, because it is hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, and it does take that commitment. But if the writing itself doesn't do it for you, if you don't feel that high after a good writing day, it might not be for you. And I think a lot of people do just dip their toe in the water to see, maybe I should write a book. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I took flying lessons to see maybe if I might like being a pilot. Wasn't for me, but I enjoyed doing it. So there's nothing wrong with that experimentation. But there may be times when it's just not for you, and it's better not to bang your head against the wall.
Yes, absolutely. And that brings us to a question we have. Colleen, what are your thoughts on ghostwriting? I mean, what if I have this great life story, or I run a business, or I'm an expert in this particular area, and I do have something important to say or a message, but I don't have the time or the will, but I want to get the message out. What do you think of ghostwriting?
I am a ghostwriter. I have ghostwritten several books, and so I'm a big fan. I enjoy it. You do have to be okay with not getting the credit for it, but I enjoy helping people get out their stories. One of the first ones I did was for a client of mine. She was a client for many years, and she had been through cancer, and then her dad had been through cancer. And so she wanted to share her story, and she started a business with skincare products. And she wanted to, for people who'd gone through medical treatments like chemotherapy, because it's horrible on your skin. So she created a company of skincare products based out of this experience, and she wanted to share that. I ended up interviewing, I think, 20 different cancer survivors for that book. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I learned so much. I could really hear what this whole experience of going through cancer was like. And my dad also had cancer, so there was, some personal investment there. And I really enjoyed it. And ghostwriting tends to pay really well. So if you enjoy it and you like speaking in somebody else's voice, I like that challenge, listening to the person who wants this book to come out and working on it that way. And I'd say it's very rewarding. I didn't personally see any downsides.
Yeah. And on the flip side, if you're watching and you have a book in you, but you don't actually want to do the writing, then, contact Colleen or another ghostwriter and, and put the book out there, but just get the support. So you're not putting in your time if that's not what you want to do, or you don't want to ramp up your writing skill in that area. Yeah, absolutely. Go get a ghostwriter. Absolutely.
And I think it's a good way for writers to, supplement that income. We're talking about needing the income, but wanting to feel still like you're finding meaning in your work. That's a really good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about friends and family. And Marilyn just commented that one of the parts of the learning process for her as an author was learning that her friends and family weren't her readers. And so it's not an insult they're not reading. They're just not, what she needed to do was build a readership independent of the people she knew. And so she wanted to know if you had any tips on that.
Yeah, thanks for talking about that, Marilyn, because we were talking about that a lot the other night on a Twitter chat with Rachel Thompson, Bad Redhead Media, if anybody knows her. We were talking about this whole thing of family. Some writers were really, kind of torn up about the fact that their families weren't reading their books. And this is totally understandable. I think we're just coming from our point of view. So, I've written this book. I need support. Certainly my family's going to be the first one there for me, right? In most cases, your family is there for you. They're like, good job, way to go, but that doesn't mean they're going to want to read your book. And it's difficult for a lot of writers to bring those two together. So they tend to have perhaps negative feelings toward their family. Sometimes I heard from some readers or some commenters that their parents weren't really supportive of this writing thing. Why are you doing this if you're not earning money at it? Are you sure, this is really what you should be spending your time at it? I think that's kind of just because they don't understand. I mean, it's only other writers that understand what we're doing. So it's really not right of us to expect that our family members are going to understand what it's like to be a writer. They're not writers. Do we understand what it's like to be an Air Force, officer? My younger brother's an Air Force officer. Do I get that? Probably not. Am I spending a lot of my time to understand that? Probably not. So we have to be equal and fair about what we're expecting of our family, and understand also that we have a certain place in the family, and that's how our family sees us. It's not necessarily as a writer. Maybe they see us as a daughter, a younger sister, the kid growing up who was funny or whatever. So it's hard, when family members and maybe even friends don't read your stuff. But I think we have to be, a little forgiving and a little equal in how we're approaching that, so it doesn't hurt us so much.
Yeah, no, great comment. And we have another person, just this Facebook user says, writing is my bliss. I love this. Writing is my bliss. I consider myself as an expressive writer or storyteller. Writing is my platform to be heard, to share, to entertain, to release. I love that, to release. I write for myself and others and not for money, although that would be nice. I agree. However, on the downside, my body isn't moving enough. And I'm just, Colleen, I'm sure you can relate to that, right?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
He or she just tapped into my niche, which is writing and wellness. It's kind of hilarious when you're a health writer and you're spending all day at the computer, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm supposed to be all about, being well and being fit. And I'm very dedicated to that. But I'm also very aware about how horrible the writing life is for our health. It really is. I wrote a blog, you can find it on my website, something like, 7 reasons why writing is the most dangerous profession you can get into. And we don't think that. We think, oh, writing's so easy. All you got to do is sit at the computer all day. Well, now we know that, what do they say? Sitting is the new smoking. It's horrible for you for a zillion reasons. So that's another reason why I started writing in wellness. And that's not all we talk about there, but we do talk about how important it is to keep yourself healthy in this job, because it will kind of try to tear you apart. Not only your joints and your muscles and back pain and neck pain and carpal tunnel and overweight and all these issues that this sort of lifestyle can create. So we have to really make a point to counteract that. And one of the things that I do personally is I make exercise a huge priority. I've been a health writer for over 20 years, and I can say, after researching studies pretty much every day, that if you want one panacea, if you want one thing that's going to help you age well and keep you young, it's exercise. Get in some exercise every day, even if it's only a walk. Walking's really good for you. Everybody can do that. Go take a walk, but don't neglect it. And it's good not only for your body, but for your brain. If we want to be creative, we want our brain to be snapping when we're ready to write, we need to be sure we're exercising. If we want energy, we need to be sure we're exercising. People say, I'm too tired to exercise. It's because you're not exercising. When you demand your body have the energy to exercise every day, it will start producing it. If you don't demand it, if you just sit all day, then your body's going to say, we don't need this energy. I'm too tired. It's the way that it works. So writing is not good for your body. It's kind of like the driving professions, right? And you're sitting driving all day. It's the same thing. Not good for your body. I do yoga also. Is a really good thing for writers to stretch out all those kinks and get you up straight again, because we're all in this posture, right? So good point. Thanks for bringing it up.
Oh, absolutely. And then I just wanted to this is a really nice comment and a segue into kind of the last major topic I wanted to talk about. Pupix13 said, I started a journal recently to escape and vent, and it's been very therapeutic. And that brings us back to all those benefits and whatnot. And what I wanted to say was, reading your book, one of the things I loved about it, and when I coach nonfiction authors, I'm always talking about this. You want your readers you want to give your readers things to help them easily digest the material, interact with it, engage with it. And your book has some really awesome features in it. So can you talk a little bit about the book itself and the features, like from an author perspective? You've added some awesome features, and what are they, and what was the decision behind that?
Thank you, by the way. And to Pupix on journaling, I mean, studies have shown how beneficial it is, so you're definitely on the right track there. If you enjoy journaling, or if you're in a writer's block place, or if you're not sure about writing and trying to make the decision, journaling is a great way to do that. So here to journaling. I mean, I talk about some of the studies in that on writing and wellness. It's all good, can do so many benefits for you, so absolutely great thing. On the nonfiction book features, I think part of this came from my experience as a copywriter, and part of it from my own experience reading nonfiction books. Mm-hmm. I have found personally that most of the time, I mean, there's some exceptions, but most of the time when I'm reading nonfiction books, if all it is straight text, it's hard to stick with it and to get out of it what I'm hoping to get out of it. In my nonfiction books, it's important to me for each reader to get a personal impact out of it, to get a benefit out of it. And if all I'm doing is talking at them, that's not going to happen. So it's important to me, and also just through my experience of what makes good nonfiction, to provide quizzes and exercises and journaling activities that will help you to take this journey with me. And I've done that in all three books, because I want you to come to the end of the book with the benefit that I'm promising the book will give you. Overwhelm, rescue, I want you to come to the end of it feeling like you've got some tools you can use to better manage your time and to fit writing in a little better without feeling so stressed out. Write or Get Noticed, I want you to come to the end of the book with your tagline for your niche, with your mission statement, with your whole author blueprint, so you know how to move forward with a platform that's going to work for you. With Your Writing Matters, I want you to come to the end of the book knowing whether writing is right for you, if this is part of your life's purpose or not. And so by including these quizzes and things, I'm asking the reader, and I hope the reader will, take the time to go through the quiz, answer the questions, do the exercises, so that you can get into your own head, because it takes a little more effort to do that. We can just sit there and passively read the book. But if we take that extra effort, then we internalize the concepts, we apply them to our own lives, and then we can come out with a much better action plan for where we want to go than if we simply just sit and read. Because if you just sit and read the book, when you're done, most likely you're just going to forget about it. It's not going to have the impact that I hope it'll have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I think the features are so important. People think I just get the information down, and there's so much more to writing a nonfiction book. And when I looked at your book and I read the book, it was like, yes, Colleen has nailed this. Like, she gets this. So I was like really happy about it, and I really wanted to mention it and ask about it a little bit, because if you're considering buying the book, the features in the book are something that I think make it a really strong book for writers, because it's not just information download. You can engage with it, you can think about it. Some of Colleen's story is in there. There's lots in there that will help you. Talking about Colleen's story, wrapping up, Colleen, can you tell us more about what you offer for authors outside of the 3 books? So you have workshops and whatnot. So tell us a little bit, ghostwriting, tell us a little bit about that.
I have, like you said, the Writing and Wellness is my big platform for writers. If anybody wants to go there, it's just writing and spelled out wellness.com. That's where I really try to help writers, I say, to live their best creative lives, to combine physical wellness, mental wellness. And we also talk about marketing. We talk about all these things we've been talking about today. How can we keep our mindset in the right place to be as successful as we can be? I have started in workshops. I have one workshop up that helps people to finish the projects they start. That's over on Teachable. There's a link to that on Writing and Wellness. I found personally that I had a struggle finishing my novels when I started them. I would get halfway through and think they weren't any good and start over. And it was a while before I realized you got to finish the story to learn how to finish the story. So, and that can be difficult for a lot of people. So I have a workshop on how to finish the projects you start. I'm planning a new workshop. I'm hoping by the end of the year that will help writers to find their niche. It'll be kind of an add-on to Writer Get Noticed, to walk writers through to find that niche. I find that seems to be a challenge really for fiction writers, particularly finding how to get a niche that really works for them online. A lot of people will say that they're blogging about a general topic, but it's not specific enough to be able to bring people to them. So I'm planning on doing that. As far as other services, I mean, if people are interested, they're certainly welcome to contact me. I haven't worked one-on-one with writers. I work with workshops all the time. I do speaking. I'm going to have an in-person event in Grand Junction in July, Grand Junction, Colorado. I'm psyched because it's our first in-person workshop since COVID. So I love doing in-person workshops. I always do something special. Those who have come know that they usually walk away with something they can keep. So I'm really looking forward to that. I do a lot of those. But if anybody needs help, I mean, people email me. I always respond, and I'm happy to help however I can.
Sounds fabulous. Thank you so much, Colleen, for joining us. For the authors out there.
Thank you, Melody. I mean, I'm so grateful that you invited me, and thrilled with what you're doing here with Author Nation. I mean, this looks like it's going to be a really awesome resource. So I'll definitely point folks this way, because I love what you're doing here.
Thank you. And it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. And actually, so everyone knows, we are going to be doing a weekly live interview starting in August. So this is our first one, our tested out. Yay. It went really well. I'm thrilled. And so if you would like to, see more interviews, subscribe to the Author Nation YouTube channel for more live interviews starting in August. And of course, there's also lots of resources there as well. And Colleen, again, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Your writing matters.
Thank you,
Everyone's writing matters.
Absolutely. You're writing. And I should say, I have a contest going on Writing and Wellness right now. If anybody's interested in entering, I have a little, I'm giving away many prizes. One of them is $75. But I have a little mug, and I should have brought it, but I don't have it, that says "Your Writing Matters." And that's going to be one of the prizes, because I want people to believe that your writing matters.
Yeah, wonderful. If you send me the link to that contest, I will put it in the description as well.
Awesome.
And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate your support of Author Nation. I really appreciate you showing up and interacting and asking questions. It's been really wonderful. Wrapping up, Marilyn says, thanks to both of you for great info, so much info. And Estetino Artist says, awesome
Thanks, you
interview.
guys.
Thank you so much. And I will see everyone in August for more live videos. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel and check out the videos we have. Thank you very much.